watercolor painting ideas that are easy enough for beginners. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Michelle, and on this channel we do all things watercolor, as well as drawing tutorials, a little bit of mixed media, even business and motivation for artists too. Please do consider subscribing. If you click the little bell icon, you can get notified every time I have a new video for you. I make at least one free video a week here on YouTube on a Thursday with extra content for Patreon subscribers. So what I'm going to do is, in a moment, I'm going to run very quickly through 10 subjects that I think you should start with when you're a beginner. And at the end of the video, I want you to let me know which one you like the best, if you'd like any actual painting tutorials for these subjects. But first, let's just talk for a moment or two about what you should be painting, what you shouldn't be painting as a beginner. So I see people getting really disheartened when they start painting, and people used to come to my art classes for the first time. I mean, I would sometimes have people that would literally come to one class and say, oh, that's it, I obviously can't paint. And people seem to come to art classes with this belief that they should already be able to paint, and you don't do anything else in your life like this. You don't go somewhere. I used to have people coming into my class, new people, and they say, I'm so sorry, Michelle, I can't paint or draw at all. And I'm sort of thinking to myself, I know, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to teach you to do these things. So stop having this expectation that you should already be able to do something that you haven't learned yet. Of course, some people are a little bit more talented than others, but we're all learning all the time. And there's no reason on earth why you should be able to paint and draw right from the beginning. There's also no reason on earth why you should be starting your painting journey with a hugely complicated painting. Now, I know you don't want to spend, 2 years just doing little samples or practicing techniques. I completely understand that. That's boring. We all want to get on and do an actual picture. But you're actually making it so hard for yourself by just concentrating on these big, expansive projects. Don't start out by trying to draw your grandchildren on the beach or trying to draw a cityscape with loads of difficult buildings. I've actually made a companion video to this one, which was things not to paint. I'll link to that one at the end of this video. But if you think about a landscape, for example, with a lot of elements, you're having to get so many things right. You're having to get the colours right and the drawing right and the tonal contrast right. You're having to get perspective right, and you're having to think about the composition of the painting. It's almost impossible as a beginner to get all those things right. So I want you to get away from the expectations of having some kind of perfect result, because there's no reason on earth why you should. It does not mean that you're failing. Every time you finish a piece of work, you should look for the things that have gone right with it and the things that have gone wrong with it. I've got another video all about how to analyse your work and allow yourself to learn in a more intentional way. If I can find that one, because I've done over 200 on this channel, if I can find that one, I'll link it in the description of this video. But I want you to start out with really simple subjects and to combine that with sometimes just playing around with a piece of paper and just practicing techniques, colour mixing, that sort of thing. I have tons of videos about those things on this channel. But let's get on now and look at the 10 subjects that I think you can tackle reasonably effectively as a beginner. So the first subject that I think you should try, and this is an unusual one, and it's one that I actually brought into one of my, I used to do regular classes. At one point I had 4 different classes, over 50 students every single week, and I was always looking for new stuff to do with them, and I thought, let's do folk art. And I took in some reference photos, and they absolutely loved it because they found it so relaxing. Now, if you do decorative or folk art, if you start with these subjects that are decorative, that have flat areas of colour, where you're not necessarily going for realism, you are going to have so much more of a relaxing time. You can free yourself from this monkey on your back that's telling you, this has to look realistic, and you can just play with pattern and play with colour and end up with something very beautiful. Now, for inspiration, you can look anywhere in the world at any time in human history. You have American folk art all the way back to things like Egyptian tomb paintings, and of course you have all the Asian continent, all the beautiful Indian and Chinese decorative arts, and of course in Europe we have our own history of folk art painting too. Wherever you look in the world, you will find folk art paintings. You can use them for inspiration. You can also get those books, I think they're done by Search Press, that give you designs. So you can get yourself a book of copyright-free designs and just play around with pictures, with colour, with pattern, without any expectation that you have to get a realistic result. The next subject I have for you, which is one of the most important things that you can ever do, and that's still life. And by still life, I mean excluding things like fruit that could rot or change as you look at them. I want you to choose objects that if you put them on the table and came back in 10 years' time, they'd still be exactly the same except for the dust and the spider's webs. Particularly things like vases. A simple vase with a pattern on can teach you so much about drawing, about colour, about shadows. So if you're completely lost for something to paint, just pick yourself some very simple objects, place them perhaps on a sheet of white printer paper, and this will be a wonderful learning experience for you. You haven't got to worry with still life that, you know, the weather's going to change or the flower's going to move. If you've painted a lot of real flowers like I have, you know that they move, they follow the sun around even when they're indoors. Simple still life objects are a great subject for beginners. The next subject I have for you is a simple sunset painting with some silhouettes in the foreground, so some dark silhouettes, perhaps some palm trees, something like that. Skies can be quite tricky, quite difficult. You don't need, when you're a beginner, to be trying to do the sky and also trying to do 20 other things. So a simple sunset painting can be really effective, and actually if you put lots of things in the foreground, if you mess up a little bit of the sky because you're going in with darks in the foreground, you can cover up your mistakes. And my tip for you with this one is don't use black for your foreground objects. Just mix yourself up a really strong dark that tones in with whatever you've used, perhaps a purple, a grey, a brown, or even a blue. So the next subject I have for you is a single flower. A flower can be a really beautiful thing to paint. You don't have to worry too much if you get the wrong amount of petals. No one's going to notice really. Although if it's a very simple flower which only has a few petals, you do want to actually count them. But generally speaking, flowers are a very forgiving subject. They're also very beautiful. You don't have to be too accurate with your drawing, and you'll always get a lovely, bright and pretty result. It gives you a good chance to play around with colours and with blending techniques. I do advise, if you're a beginner though, that you don't work from a real flower. They wilt very quickly and they will move around. They'll follow the light around. They'll lose petals, all sorts of things will go on. But if you can get yourself a nice photograph of a beautiful clear flower, it's a great subject for a beginner. You can even put in perhaps a very loose background in green tones. A very easy subject for a beginner to get a good result from. The next subject I have for you is a painting done with just one colour, a tonal painting, and this will teach you all about tonal contrast. I actually have another video all about tonal contrast. I'll try and link to that one in the description of this video. But if you can take away colour mixing, then again you're simplifying elements, so I suggest something like a really simple landscape. One of those simple mountain scenes can be very effective, where you can see things getting fainter as they go into the distance. You'll need to use a strong colour for this. You'll need to use what they call a staining colour. I have a video coming up on this channel very soon about staining colours. I think it's the next one after this one. Don't forget to subscribe for that one. Basically, a staining colour is a strong colour. It's going to look like ink when you apply it. Generally a blue or a grey. You could also use a brown or a purple, but a dark blue such as indigo or Prussian blue, or a nice strong grey like Payne's grey is going to be a great choice for a tonal painting. The next great subject for beginners is a tree. I'm not talking about tons of trees, not a whole forest of trees, but a simple tree. Again, I've got a tree painting tutorial which I will link in the description of this video. Trees are quite complicated and they can seem very daunting. I was terrified of doing trees when I started painting. I don't think I tackled one for about 3 years, but I really didn't need to worry. And if you're going to move on to painting landscapes or even things like gardens, then it's going to be a good idea to study trees. So do a single tree, perhaps just a little bit of greenery at the base, just so it has something to sit on. It's a great subject for beginners. At this point in the video, as always, if you're enjoying this, can I ask you just to click that thumbs up, that like button for me? YouTube rewards channels with audience interaction. So if you like, share, subscribe, or leave me a comment, YouTube will push this video out to more people. I can teach more people how to paint. I'm trying to grow my channel as well to 100,000 subscribers. You can help me do it, and I'm so grateful to all of you who watch me here on YouTube. After a simple tree, what about a simple building? I see beginners get in trouble so often with buildings, and they're tackling whole street scenes, you know, or huge churches with multiple towers. Don't make it so hard for yourself. Building perspective is something that has to be learned. I have lots of videos on this channel about drawing perspective and how to draw buildings. Do seek those out. They'll be very helpful for you. You can just understand some basic principles. So you want to start by just drawing a single building, maybe a 2-story house or even a 1-story building like a shed or a cottage. And I want you to really study the angles. Now, I won't go into too much detail about how your brain sees angles in this video, only to say that it actually can be quite deceptive and that your brain can actually flip angles around the wrong way. So a quick tip for this is when you're looking at your building, whether it's in real life or whether it's on a photograph, is get a straight item, a long pencil, and place it against that angle. It will instantly show you the direction that it's going in. There are all sorts of reasons why your brain doesn't always tell you exactly what's going on. Sometimes you have to stop and actually check. So the next great painting subject for beginners is a sky, and I mean just a sky. Don't try and get everything in place. This is what I was saying at the beginning of this video. Beginners try to get the sky and the buildings and the trees and the landscape and the foreground and the river and everything going on at once. It's too much. You want to do some simple sky studies. If you can study some simple skies, you'll have that knowledge then that you can apply to any other painting. You'll be able to move forwards and put that sky behind a landscape. I've even put them sometimes if I've been doing, some nice flower paints, I've even put a bit of sky in the background. You'll get to the point where you can just do a sky from memory. Sky painting is tricky and difficult. If you're finding it's going very badly, you're not doing something wrong, you just need to learn a few blending techniques. Again, I've got lots of videos on this channel about painting skies. Do seek out the ones with some very simple clouds and have a go at some sky painting. Next, what about some creatures? Now, you might be attracted to things like leopards and tigers and elephants, but actually they're really, really difficult to do. And dogs, oh, for goodness sake, beginners attacking dogs. I make it sound like you're attacking the dog, don't I? But dogs are actually really, really difficult, and they're all very different. Some of the things that you will find much easier are things like insects. So a beetle, a butterfly, birds are great actually. They're very simple to draw. Start your creature painting journey with the small things, the bugs, the beetles, the butterflies, and the birds. You'll find it so much easier than beginning with mammals. Next, I have a subject that's really, really simple to draw, and yet when you look into it, the whole world is in there, and certainly a whole world of colour mixing. And that is to paint a leaf. Now, whether you choose an autumn leaf with all of the reds and browns, all of the different vein colours, or whether you choose a summer leaf from a plant, they're very simple to draw. You can get straight on to playing with the colour and you'll always get a really good result. The good thing about a natural thing like a leaf is, nobody's going to look at it. It's not like trying to paint a famous actor and you get the slightest thing wrong and everybody's sort of looking at you like, oh, you haven't done a very good job of that. No one's going to look at your leaf painting and think you didn't get the exact right leaf because they haven't got the leaf in front of them. They're a fantastic subject. They're a great chance for practicing your colour mixing too. So let me know in the comments if you've tried any of these subjects, or if you'd like me to do a tutorial for any of these specific subjects. Remember not to be too hard on yourself when you're beginning. It's like anything, you're not going to get it right the first time you have a go at it, so just relax and enjoy the process. Before you leave this video, don't forget to pop into the video description because we've got all of those other videos that I listed for you. There's also some free downloadable PDFs that you can grab for no money whatsoever. There's even a free watercolor painting course that you can take. If you enjoyed hearing about subjects that you should paint as a beginner, I think you're going to enjoy the video that I made all about the things that you should avoid, like the plague when you're first starting out. You can watch that video right now.